Hello, friends, and welcome to the newest episode of Creatives on Camera. If you're an entrepreneur teaching, designing patterns, or running a shop and feeling like video is just too complicated or time-consuming, you're in the right place. This podcast is your guide to creating video content that connects authentically with your audience, builds your business, and expands your reach without the stress of a huge production or expensive equipment. We make it simple, effective, doable. I'm Lyric Montgomery Kinard, an artist, educator, and host of the show. Join me as we explore practical tips and strategies to help you confidently share your creativity online. Let's get started. Hey friends, welcome back to Creatives on Camera, where artists and crafters learn about building successful online businesses that involve video. Online classes, social media, live Zoom workshops. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I'm joined by the vibrant and deeply thoughtful Nicole Stevenson, artist, maker, mentor, and founder of the Craftcation Conference. Nicole shares the winding, often messy, always inspiring journey of building a creative business that actually fits the way your brain and heart work. We talk about pivoting when success doesn't feel sustainable, learning to honor your neurodiversity, and crafting a business rooted in service and soul. If you've ever felt like you're trying to squeeze yourself into the wrong mold, this one's for you. Let's dive into Nicole's story. It's full of the kind of honest, hard-earned insight that lights the path forward. Hello, friends. It is so good to have you back with us. I am here today with Nicole Stevenson from Craftcation, which is this completely amazing event that I cannot wait for you to hear about. But we're going to kind of get into a little bit of the story, the business story, the behind the scenes, which is what we do here, because I love hearing how creative people create businesses that serve other creative people. That's what we all do here, right? So, Nicole, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why and how you very first got started in this arena.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Nicole, and I produce a conference called Craftcation Conference, which is a conference for creatives every year in Ventura, California in the spring. And then I also produce a makers festival called Patchwork Show that is in California, northern and southern, that I've been doing for over 20 years, which I can't believe it's been that long. And then
you must have started when you were like 10. You look like there's no way you could have been doing something for 20 years.
I am almost 50. So I'm getting very, very close to that age where when I was a kid, they called it over the hill. I remember, the adult parties would have all that over the hill stuff, but anyway.
We're just at a peak.
That's right. Fantastic? A peak. I like that. It's a getting to the peak. Yeah. So, and then I also mentor creatives at Hello, Nicole Stevenson. And I have a podcast that's been on hiatus for a little while. And I have a program called Camp that helps creatives go after their goals in a mindful way. That's really focused on neurospicy people, because I started realizing I'm neurospicy, which I didn't know until I was actually invited to be on a panel about it. And then I was like, wait a second, I didn't know that. And then a lot of people in our community are. So it's really about goal getting that matches your brain, your schedule, your terms, like anti-hustle, I would say.
How interesting it is that, creatives in and of themselves are often, all over the place. And sometimes not. Sometimes they're really focused. But creative business people across the board, I would say the vast majority of them that I've met were all off the charts ADD. And it's a superpower. It's a good thing. It's why we're able to do this.
Yeah, I agree. My neurospiciness is actually OCD, which I did not know was part of that arena. And we had a panel at Craftcation, and somebody ended up not being able to come, and they needed another panelist. And somebody was like, well, why don't you go on? You have OCD. And I'm like, that's not neurodiverse. And they're like, yes, it is. So I had to do some Googling to find that out. But it made a lot of sense. And I do feel like, as much as it's been something difficult throughout my life. It is also a superpower once you learn to, yeah, and you get the coping tools that you need. Therapy, props for that. So yeah, I've been doing all this for quite some time. I mean, how did I get started? I feel like I came out of the womb a creative person and also a business person. I mean, when I was a little kid, I was the one who was like, okay, I'm going to make this stationery and, try to sell it to the neighbors, or, I was always that
had
person.
That entrepreneurial spirit from the start.
Yeah, and everybody in my family, almost everybody works for themselves, has their own business. Generally in like blue collar professions, like my mom had a house cleaning business, my dad's a barber, my uncle's a mechanic, But I just grew up around all these people, not necessarily creative entrepreneurs, but people who were self-employed, who, kind of did things on their own terms. So it felt very natural for me to be in that world, even though it necessarily wasn't my plan when I went to college. I felt like it was my destiny and I couldn't escape it, as I tried to fit myself into this other, what do they say, round peg square hole, or square hole round peg. And
you just jumped out and made your own.
Exactly. So but so I've always been creative, but professionally it started when I was living in San Francisco and I was in college. I was studying creative writing, and my best friend at the time was a painter, and we were waitresses at a bar and grill in the financial district there. And after work, she'd be like, "Oh, you want to come over and paint?" Okay, yeah. So I would just sit there and paint with her. And then she had a art show coming up, and she was like, "What if I gave you like a little space at my art show for your paintings?" And I was like, "Sure." So I made these 10 paintings, and they were just like kind of very mixed media, like whatever. And they all sold at the show. And I was like, oh, I'm hooked now. And I was frustrated with, I was in graduate school for creative writing, and I was frustrated with like the only opportunity that was really presented to me was either keeping a waitress and write and submit your stories and hope that you make it, or go into teaching. And I had been teaching. I was teaching undergrad creative writing classes, and I had people in my college classes who were much older than me, who had lived all this life, who had, kids and this and all traveling and everything. And I was like, how can I teach these people about writing about their life when I'm this like little baby person, So I felt like I needed, it wasn't fitting at the time. So anyway, this friend and I decided to move from San Francisco to LA and to try to make a living as artists. We moved into, her sister was living there in Hollywood, and we moved into her sister's like little tiny dining room that didn't have a door. And there was no bed in there. There was like a bean bag in the floor. And the two of us shared this like little 10 by 10 doorless room. And then we would go to Venice Beach, to the boardwalk, and take the blanket off our beanbag bed and set it up on the sidewalk with our art and try to sell our art to the tourists who were there. From there, it just kind of, I think I started realizing that I wasn't really as interested in fine art as I was in functional art, and as in like actually making a living off of this and like making it accessible for people. So I started doing more functional art and like easily buyable art, so like really affordable. And then I started doing my paintings on little canvases, and then taking old jeans from the thrift store and patchworking together and making a purse, and then sewing my canvas on the front of it with my painting. So then I was making purses, and then that kind of expanded, and eventually I started a clothing line, and had reps selling my stuff all over the country, and was doing trade shows, and was in, hundreds of stores. And it was awesome and great for a while until it wasn't. And
it's not very scalable. I mean, it's amazing, but
it's really
doing
hard.
All of that work.
Yeah, I mean, I had to put out 5 new lines a year. Like, and every line had to have, I mean, it would have like 30 pieces. So it was like the second you finished a line, you were starting a new one, and they were taking it all to the trade show. So there was just, it was extremely extremely stressful and not sustainable for me. And it was like the more stores I got into and the more money I made, the more stressed I was, and it just kind of took its toll. So eventually I stopped doing that and opened up a craft workshop studio in Orange County, which was the first, this was over 20 years ago. So it was the first craft workshop studio in the area. People hardly knew what Etsy was at that time. It was really hard. I feel like on one way it can sound like I'm like, I was the first, but really what I'm trying to say is that it wasn't there yet. So people didn't get it yet. So it was really difficult to like explain to people this whole idea of DIY and craft workshop and doing this for, your kid's birthday party or something. They just kind of weren't ready for it yet. So it was tricky to find my people. And then through there, my aunt and we had shops next door to each other. And we put on our first patchwork show, Craft Festival. And that was just, Orange County. I grew up there and I hated it. And so being back living there after living in Hollywood and San Francisco and Echo Park was kind of like bleh, but I had some stuff in my life, breakups, and, ended up back there. And I was always going to LA and San Francisco to do stuff. And my aunt and I were talking, we were like, why don't we do something here? There's nothing here. It's like crappy Orange County. Now there's a ton in Orange County, but at that time there wasn't. So we put on the first patchwork show, not knowing it was going to ever happen again. And it went really well. And so that happened.
When you pivoted to a different thing, how did you end doing all the product lines?
I didn't end it.
We don't often think about how one business ends and another one starts.
Yeah, it took a while for it to end. So I was doing them at the same time for a very long time. But
more stress on double.
Yeah, but I changed the way that I was doing that. My clothing line was called Random Nicole. So I changed the way I was doing Random Nicole. I stopped doing wholesale and I kind of went back to how I started. So I was, doing craft fairs. I was doing farmers markets. I was doing my online shop, and I was producing almost everything myself. So basically got rid of all my employees, stopped having my reps, and just went super simple, cut back on all my expenses. And yeah, so that was how I did it. And then I did it for many years because we didn't make any money doing patchwork show for a very long time. So I did that, and I did Random Nicole, juggle, started Craftcation. So it was all three of them. And then eventually I saw a business coach, a woman named Tiffany Hahn, and she asked me I only had one session with her, and I guess that was all I needed because she would deliver what I needed immediately. But she asked me, what do you need to let go of? And it was that identity that I was Random Nicole. That was what people called me. And like, it was really, it was time for me to let go of that business basically. And she said, how about you just put your Etsy shop on vacation? And I did. And that was it. And that was when I really just like started transitioning out, went to my aunt who was my partner at the time and said like, listen, I'm going to go all in on this. I know you have your other business and you don't have to, but I'm going to. And then we split, and she moved on to something in the food industry in 2018. So it's been a while that we've been apart, and that I've been the sole owner of Craftcation and Patchwork Show.
It's really interesting to hear this broad overview of the journey of how you try this and you try this and you try this. And some are wildly successful, but they don't feed your soul and they suck you dry. And then you try other things. And it's a messy process. I think sometimes people see a finished product and think, that's amazing. What an amazing idea they had. And we don't realize the struggle before and the growth and the failures. Well, they're not even failures, just the things that I find this lovely and wonderful that you had so much success with Random Nicole, but then you realized it wasn't what you needed and what was aligned with the core of where you wanted to go forward is so important for us as creative business people, because it's that creativity that fills our souls, right? To be in the part of our business and in alignment with what keeps feeding our soul instead of what drains us, what just exhausts us, what pulls that creativity away.
I completely agree with you. And I think the tricky part is realizing that the thing that may be filling your soul at one point, a couple of years later, may not fill your soul anymore.
Right?
And that was
because
what happened.
We grow.
Exactly. And that was what happened to me. It was like, it's kind of like a marriage. I mean, you are married to your business. It is an active relationship and your creativity. And it's like, are you going to grow together? Are you going to grow apart? Are you going to go your separate way? You know, what are you going to do here? And it just as hard as getting a divorce or having a breakup is changing that route for your business and letting go. I mean, it took me years to let go of Random Nicole. But when I look back on the path, I can see that it's all grist for the mill. You know, everything led to the next thing, even if that thing didn't seem important or successful or whatever it was at the time. I mean, I think back onto those days I was sitting on the Venice Beach boardwalk and I had no idea what I was doing or where I was going to go. But in that one summer that I sat there, I learned so much about life and business and people that I don't think I've ever learned so much in such a short period of time in my life. And I'm emotional right now because I'm thinking back on the people that I was sitting there with. And these were people who were unhoused people. You know, like my friend and I were the only people on that boardwalk who had a house to go home to. And even though we were living in that tiny little doorless dining room and sharing it, we had a place to go. Even though we didn't have a bed, we had a roof over our heads. And these people did not. And they gave so much to us, you know, because they were sleeping on the streets near there. They would go and save us a spot when they saved their spot in the morning because we had to drive in. I mean, there were times when we didn't have any money. We had no food at home, no money, you know, for lunch. And it was like, somebody would sell a painting and they'd be like, hey, I'm going to get us a big burrito. And we'd all share that burrito. And it was just like, you know, I spent my life, I think, definitely feeling for other people and caring for them, but never really having to be in a position like that where I was like, this person, you know, maybe hasn't showered for a long time. This person has nothing. This person's teeth are rotted out. And this is a person who, like, I'm hugging so tight right now and I would do anything for. It just changes everything.
It does. When we put ourselves outside of our own experience and are open to what's out there, that I think the empathy that is created, the connection that is created, helps us to better serve going forward. I think creative businesses that are successful both for the people, the audience, the students, and for the business owner are ones where you create that connection. And being able to understand experiences outside of your own is, I think, a required element, because you can limit yourself and only serve people that are exactly like you, right? But where's the growth, and where's the goodness, and where's the beautiful bigness of beauty and love and compassion and service that we as creative business people can offer? Because that's really what we do, isn't it? We are serving the people that are our customers. they're not as much customers, or they're
community.
Just
it's
over and over.
yeah,
our community, the people we serve, when we come to it from a place of service, and that's built through the kind of experiences that you had at that time.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that about service, because one of the things that in my mentorship stuff that people come to me that they struggle with is marketing themselves. And they're like, how do you do it? Like, how do you, show up on social media? Like, how do you show up and talk on Instagram? And I'm like, oh my gosh, if you could see my phone of all the trials of, got to start over, to get to one 10-second video where I'm like, hey, don't forget to apply for a patchwork show. You would not be saying that right now. But the one thing that switched in my brain that helped me was coming from a place of service. Like, I am just a conduit. I'm just the vehicle this message is coming out of. It's not about me, it's about my message. And if this can help one person, then I'm going to do it. I mean, I was was it a workshop? Yeah, in a workshop the other day, and I was talking about Instagram, and I was saying examples of something. And I was like, for example, you could, if you were affiliating for products, you could curate them into a group. And it's summer right now at this time we're recording, and it's very hot. And I was like, like for me, I have like a neck fan, and I have these like portable ice packs. So I could do like a curation of Fat Girl Summer. And somebody in the group was like, oh, that's a great idea. Can you do that? And so I did. I put together an Instagram reel called, Fat Girl Summer. These are my favorite things for summer. And one of my favorite things is this wireless bra. And I was like, just show them the wireless bra. It's not revealing at all, but it was just like, it's not about me. If one person can find this thing that's going to make them more comfortable, then it's worth it. I'm here to be of service.
Oh, like ding, 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 winner. This is exactly the sermon I preach all the time. And that so many of our colleagues truly understand is that it's not about us, and that we're not pushing this thing that we're selling on other people. We are offering a gift. We're sharing something that has made our lives better, more creative, more joyful, and your life can be better too. And the marketing isn't sales, it's connecting and helping and loving and serving the people that we're speaking to.
And people can sense that. Absolutely.
They absolutely can. Where are your businesses now? I want to hear about Craftcation. Tell us what this is, because it's a little, I have never been. I've heard from here and from there, these they're always starry-eyed. They're always, it's not just this thing, it's an experience. And it's what comes across is how they feel about it, which feels different than a lot of other conferences and trade shows and exhibition kind of shows that I've seen. So I want to describe what it is, and then let's kind of go back into how it was built into what it is now.
Yeah, absolutely. So Craftcation now is a week in the spring in Ventura, California. We usually have around 500 people there. And we have over 200 different workshops and activities, with about 15 plus happening simultaneously for people to choose from, so that the workshops are small. You're not going to be in a room with 200 people listening to someone lecture. You're going to be in a room with 20 other people doing, small group thing where you can actually get your question answered by the person. So it started out small, and we try to keep that intimacy there by having more workshops with smaller capacities in them. We have craft workshops, everything from sewing. We have 3 sewing rooms that are filled with sewing machines that are buzzing all day, every day. We have a dyeing classroom in the parking lot where people do indigo and ice dye and all kinds of things. We have jewelry, screen printing, printmaking, resin. We've had perfume making before. We've had stained glass before. It just any possible type of craft, crochet, knitting, anything you could imagine, we've probably had it before, or are about to have it. And then we have business workshops too. So we have, again, it runs the gamut. We have branding, how to do product photography. We'll have accounting. We'll have panels on trying to run a creative business as a neurodivergent person or as a parent or as a caregiver. Everything that a creative person, whether you're making a living out of your creativity or you're leading or want to lead a creative, intentional life, it's everything. Oh, we also have wellness. So we have yoga and meditation on the beach. We have, sessions about manifesting. Last year we had creative writing courses. It's just everything. And then we have fun stuff there too. So we have trivia, we have a costume dance party, we have a board game thing, we have a meetup for introverts and first timers. We have everything, and it's at the beach. It's a block from the beach in Ventura, which is such a cool beach town. It's a very down to earth California beach town, with a real appreciation for the arts. And last year we partnered with some small businesses in the downtown and had workshops in their studios, which was really great we partnered with other women-owned small businesses, and that was really cool. So that's what Craftcation is now. And how it started was, I guess I can go back and say, that's what it is in the description, but that's not the feeling of it. The feeling of it is like walking into a family reunion with family you haven't met yet. It's just this.
Who you love and you like. And
yeah, yes. Not like the family you wish you didn't have. It's the attendee demographic really varies. You'll be in a workshop with, a queer woman with a mohawk who's sitting next to, an old grandma from the Midwest, and they probably voted differently, but they're sitting next to each other, making a craft and finding a common ground. So there's a lot of magic there in the connections of the people. And I feel like anybody who comes there that doesn't want to make genuine connections with people and isn't ready to accept people as they are, first of all, they probably wouldn't register in the first place. And if they did, they're probably not going to come back. It's, it's very down to earth. You're hanging out with the presenters. There's not really a division between presenters and attendees where it's like, oh, I can't go up to this person. It's like, yeah, you're sitting next to them in another workshop, knitting a scarf or something. So there's that whole part of it. There's a real magic to it that I don't feel very many other places. So
that's beautiful. And it comes across, as I said, when people tell me about your conference, they don't tell about it the same way they talk about other conferences. So it's lovely to see the successful connection community you've built there.
It is about that community. We're only as good as our people who come. They're the ones who welcome new people, who make it feel like a good experience.
So how did you start? How did you build that? I would say make that happen, but it's a timely, intensive, struggling kind of process. But that's what teachers and creative businesses want to do, is we want to build that feeling of connection. So tell us kind of how it started. Did you have this feeling that you wanted to build that from the beginning?
No.
How did it evolve?
No, I had no idea what I was doing. So
As we often don't.
Yeah. My then business partner at the time and I were invited to Ventura by someone who worked at the city there, who wanted us to bring Patchwork Show there. And we were in the car driving there, and there was a lot of traffic, and we just started talking about Like, wouldn't it be cool if we could have like a retreat for people like us and they could take business classes and craft classes? And then by the time we got to this meeting, we were like, hey, Eric, we know you want us to bring Patchwork Show here, but we actually have this other thing. It's a conference we produce. Like, we just talked about it like it already existed. It's called Craftcation. It's this, it's that, it's the other. And that was really how it was born. I had never been to a conference before or anything like that. So I did not know what it was supposed to be. Yeah, I had zero idea. And he helped us find a hotel that would host us, because when we did a meeting on our own and the hotel didn't take us seriously. So he called the hotel and was like, these girls are serious. I sent them in. And when we went back, they had like a cracker and cheese spread set up and, everything, because.
And the media kit. And
yeah, exactly. Because we were two, how old was I at that time? I don't know, 30s, girls. I think I had blue hair at the time, and it was like the hotel was like, what are, wasn't.
You weren't wearing a suit and a tie.
No.
With a business haircut.
Yeah.
And a different gender.
Exactly.
So it was hard to be taken seriously.
Yeah. Luckily, this person from the city really believed in us and helped us make that happen. And then we just really created something that we wanted to go to, which was great in a way, but kind of a bummer because we couldn't go to it. We were running around, I had no idea about. The only thing we really knew about event production was what we learned from doing Patchwork Show Makers Festival. That was like 6 hours on one day. And this was like days long with hundreds of people. We had our whole family there helping out. And I don't know, it was just from the get-go, it was a really magical experience. I mean, there were a lot of problems, a lot of big mistakes that we made. Over the years, things have gotten refined, and I feel like every year things are a little more streamlined. The difficulty with producing something on this scale is that, we're only doing it once a year. So when we learn something, we have to wait a whole nother year to try that out. It's not like with, if you're doing a monthly makers market, it's like, oh, next month we're going to do this. Next month we're going to do this. Next month we're going to do this. It's like, you have to really analyze what's working and what isn't, because you only have that chance once a year to improve.
Mm-hmm. What are are you willing to share with us some of the things that did not work and what you learned from that?
Yeah, absolutely. Things that didn't work were, in the beginning, we tried to have food too, but the hotel food was too expensive. And we were trying to keep the conference affordable. So we had my husband, who was a chef, cook, and they're in like a not industrial kitchen. Like we used the kitchen at City Hall that they let us use. We rented the kitchen at the, Italian American Center, and it was just extremely stressful. And we ended up finding that while some of the original attendees miss it, overall it hasn't, for the amount of difficulty, it didn't really change their overall experience. I think too, like refining the schedule. So one of the problems was that I tend to want to over deliver. And so it was like, okay, we're going to serve breakfast and we're going to serve lunch. We're going to, have 4 different workshops. We're going to have like 10 things happening at night. We're going to do, all of this stuff. And over the years, it was like pulling back and offering less, but making what we did offer really strong, and realizing like people don't want to rush around. And I think in the beginning we had like 10 minutes between classes because we were trying to pack in so many classes. And it's like, reading, we send out a survey every year and read that feedback. And that has been extremely helpful in shaping what it's become
when
now.
You actually talk to your people, this is, no matter what you do, when you are in a service-based industry, which is what we as teachers and shops and conference organizers are doing, we are serving people. And we think we know what's going on, but until you talk to them, there's often so many things that you don't realize are needed, that are a gap that you're not filling until you send out a survey. I mean, teachers can do this at the end of every class. People talking to your people is hugely important.
Yeah, I taught, I had my craft workshop studio. It was called the Craft Kitchen. And then I also taught workshops at a lot of different places. And that was something that took me a while to learn, is that at the end of my workshop, I had a little piece of paper. I mean, now I probably have a QR code, where they could go and do it. But I just had a little piece of paper with, I think, 4 or 5 simple questions, and then space for them to write something in. And that was super helpful. I wish I would have thought of that sooner. But again, at the time when I was doing all this stuff in my business, we just didn't have the resources we have now. I started my business and I had one of those Mac, Blueberry computers. I was still on dial-up internet. So I think I'm happy that people have all of these resources now.
Yeah, it is much easier. And I love getting feedback from students. And if you're afraid of what they might say, don't be. And you can word questions such as, what value did you gain from the class? What is missing? What expectations did you have that were or were not met? And then my favorite question is always, what can I do to improve this class for future students or future attendees, right? It's like people love to be an expert, right? So they love to give you ideas for ways that you can help the future. It's not about you again. It always comes back to that. It's never about us as the business owner, as the teacher, as the presenter. It's about how can we better serve. So if our current students are serving future students, they love that.
Agree.
And even if you have a really small list, if you have a really small audience, doing this kind of research, if you have 20 people on an email list, and you're at the very beginning of your business, that's a huge, lovely resource, because you can send a private email to everyone and say, get on Zoom with me for half an hour and let me ask you questions. What are your issues? What are your problems? What are you struggling with? How do you think I can best help you? And that can give you gold for things that you produce.
I mean, that kind of input, that's stuff that big corporations pay tens of thousands of dollars for. They hire companies to find these people and set this up, and we have it at our fingertips already here. And I want to go back to what you said about, being scared to get feedback. And yes, getting feedback is scary, but we're never going to improve unless we get it. And there's a writer, she wrote this book called Playing Big. Her name is Tara Moore. And she helped me reframe feedback. And it's not a judgment on me or my art or my service. It's a judgment on how what I'm making, what I'm presenting is fitting into what that person needs at that particular moment. And it may show you that you need to change your service or product, but it also may show you that the people you're reaching aren't the people who need this thing that you've made. So no matter what, it's going to help you. Of course, there are those people who are the outliers who just want to make everybody miserable. So you have to kind of think about that too. But for the most part, I try to look for patterns in feedback, from multiple people, so I can see, okay, is this just one cranky person, or is this something that needs to be addressed?
Absolutely. And those outliers and those cranky people, I do this thing in my head where I make up the worst story on the planet about how their day is going. And, just, oh my gosh, her dog died and she got in a traffic accident on the way here. And, I make up a sob story, and it takes all of the pressure off of it being any reflection on us. It's the lens that they're experiencing before they even come to us, that if there's an outlier. Now, if there's repeated criticisms that are a problem, that's such, like you said, such valuable information. It's like, this is a hole or a gap that I was blind to, and my people are suffering because it's not being filled. And now I know, and now I can fill it, and it makes it so much better.
Exactly.
Tell us, Craftcation is open to teacher applications. What are you looking for when you're looking for bringing in people to collaborate with you on this experience that you create for your attendees?
It's interesting you asked me that, because I just made a reel last night for Instagram that's, here's what we're looking for, basically. So
fresh in your mind.
Yeah. So I look for practicality, like, can the workshop be done in the space that we have with the resources that we have? I look at supplies. So are these supplies reasonable? Are they safe? Are we going to be able to use them in a hotel? I also look at the teacher and their experience, not necessarily in like how many workshops have they taught, but more in, does the experience that they have and their presence seem like it's going to come together to make a workshop where attendees are not only learning something, but where they're also enjoying themselves. I think that's really important too.
Okay, so let's stop there for just 1 second, because you're not going to be able to be in the room with all the teachers. So how does, I'm leading you on to something that's my thing, right? How does a person express or put their presence out there? How can you find out what that presence is like?
Survey. So we survey people. We have a QR code that's in every classroom where people can scan it, go to a thing, pick the workshop they were in, and submit feedback right then. And then we also send a survey out at the end of the conference. So we have 2 ways.
So these are surveys to go to people who have been in classrooms for who you will bring back. What about new people?
New people who we've never had before?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's part instinct and part research. So I'll look at their social media and their website. I will try to find a video of them talking, whether they're teaching or just talking, and kind of see what their presence is like.
Right. This is exactly where I was going.
If they feel like they're going to be welcoming, or if they seem, like tense and stressed out. Mm-hmm. Students could already feel tense and stressed out in a craft workshop or a business workshop, and I want somebody who's going to be a grounding, helpful, welcoming presence there.
Right. So teachers, people can't tell from reading your resume or your application who you are. They can see what you've done and what you've accomplished. But if you're on video somewhere, social media, introductory videos on your website, and if you're just yourself, if you come from this, it's not about me, this is the gift I have to offer and how I can help other people, your personality and your giving spirit will come through, right? And also, teachers, do your own surveys, right? Because you have done surveys of the students that were there, but maybe call back a student or two and have a quick interview with them about how are things now for you compared to what they were. So for testimonials, which are gold for a teacher or for any business person, right? When somebody sends something to you, that is wonderful. And I always write right back and say, it would be a huge gift to me if I could use these kind words to let other people into my world, right? But if you can also direct those things into talking about the benefit, not just, oh, Nicole's an amazing person, right? That doesn't really bring the new person in. if they can say, I was at Craftcation and my soul was filled and I met people who felt like family even though I'd never met them, and the environment there was so happy and joyful and accepting. It's about how they feel because of the experience. That's what's going to help you get across who you are and the kind of thing that, Nicole, that you're looking for, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Nicole, this has been so wonderful. I have loved hearing part of the journey. I know there's so much more in there. If we had 5 hours, it wouldn't be enough to cover all the ups and downs and all the making of behind the process in your business and your businesses. But we see who you are and what you've built and how you serve. And it's a beautiful thing. And I'm so grateful that you took time to talk with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a joy getting to know you better. And talking about creativity, creative business, teaching, sharing, being of service, community. Thank you so much.
It is a good thing. And before we go, our last fun question that we always ask is, what's the last thing you made?
This dress I'm wearing right now.
Oh, look at that. People that are listening, it's a beautiful sundress with patterns on both sides with, I love how you've switched the, I'm calling it binding because I'm a quilter and there's a different word.
I would call it bias
binding
tape.
on the, that's it. The facing on the neckline. One pattern is on the other side. It's very creative and summery and beautiful.
Thank you.
It always feels so good to wear something that you made.
Yeah, I'm enjoying. I just started, I think, just a few weeks ago. I sewed my first dress, and I'm obsessed. So
what?
Yeah,
that new, and you made that.
Yeah, I'm obsessed.
I'm impressed. It's so much. You're booked now. You're in trouble.
Thank you.
All right, Nicole. Thank you so much, and my friends, keep serving, keep creating beautiful things. Keep bringing joy and beauty into the world because the world needs it right now. And what you do is important. All right. Take care, friends. Thank you so much for joining me on Creatives on Camera. I know there are countless podcasts out there, and I'm honored you spent your time here. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss the next one, please subscribe to the podcast. Then, if you'd like to stay connected and get even more tips on teaching, marketing, and video creation, sign up for my email list at academyforvirtualteaching.com. You'll get exclusive insights and updates delivered straight to your inbox to help you grow your creative business with ease. Lastly, be sure to check the show notes below in the episode description for links to everything mentioned today. And I'll see you in the next episode.